COP of refrigeration is QL by QH minus QL.
Good. Okay.
And sir, the diagram flow chart will be same for both
Good.
the arrow sign. So that's it, sir.
No, what is the difference between heat engine and heat pump? Can you tell? Difference between cyclic heat engine and heat pump. Anyone difference? Hmm. Anybody? Difference between cyclic heat engine and heat pump. Okay, cyclic heat engine is a device which works between two thermal reservoirs. One is the heat source, which is at higher temperature. We are going to extract the heat from the higher temperature source. Okay, and then it produces the net work output, and then remaining heat rejected to the sink at lower temperature. Okay, and then the efficiency of heat engine, you remember the heat engine, we are performance of the heat engine we are going to express in terms of efficiency. The efficiency of heat engine is given by net work done divided by heat supplied. You remember it's the most important formula for the derivation and as well as the numerical problem. Okay, so cyclic efficiency is net work done divided by heat supplied. Net work done is nothing but so the amount of the heat supplied minus amount of the heat rejected divided by amount of heat supplied. That is QH minus QL divided by QH. That is the efficiency of a heat engine. Okay, and it operates between two temperature sources. One is source at higher temperature, and another one is sink at lower temperature. Okay, cyclic heat engine, and W is positive. Okay, work done by the system. Okay, on the other hand, so the pump is opposite to that of the heat engine, okay, where work is supplied, okay, to run the pump. Okay, in heat engine is power developing device and pump is power absorbing device. You remember heat pump and refrigerator are work absorbing device. Okay, W is negative, that's why we have to supply the work to perform the heat pump. Okay, and you have to take the arrow mark in reverse direction as compared to heat engine. Okay, and it is given by, and we are going to express performance of heat pump or refrigerator in terms of coefficient of performance. Efficiency of any engine is less than 1 or less than 100 percentage. On the other hand, COP, coefficient of performance, is always greater than 1. Okay, so you'll get more than 1 for refrigerator as well as heat pump. Okay, and then in the yesterday's class, we discussed what are the limitation of first law of thermodynamics, what is a thermal reservoir, source, sink. Then we discussed cyclic heat engine, next cyclic heat pump, refrigeration system, difference between refrigerator and a heat pump, coefficient of performance for heat pump and refrigerator, relationship between the COP of heat pump and refrigeration. You remember COP of heat pump equals to 1 plus COP of refrigerator. COP of heat pump equals to QH, means it is a device. So our aim is to maintain the temperature at higher temperature. That's why we have to take QH divided by QH minus QL. So on the other hand, in case of refrigeration, our intention is to maintain lower temperature. That's why you have to take the ratio as COP equals to QL divided by QH minus QL. And the diagram is same for both heat pump and refrigeration. Okay, only you have to change the convention. Instead of HP, you have to write R in case of refrigeration. These are the things we learned in yesterday's class. Today, I'll discuss most important concept of second law of thermodynamics. That is Kelvin Planck statement and Clausius statement. Okay, most important concepts. A screen is visible. Screen is
Yes,
visible.
yes.
Okay, good. Okay. As I said, okay, the first law of thermodynamics mainly based upon the law of conservation of energy. So only the energy interaction we can study in case of first law of thermodynamics. It does not give the direction of flow of heat transfer. Okay, so the second law of thermodynamics gives the direction of the heat flow, whether from hotter body to colder body or colder body to hot body. Okay, so it gives more information about the heat flow. Okay, and it may be defined as the heat cannot flow itself from colder body to hotter body. Always the heat flow from higher temperature gradient to lower temperature gradient. Okay, or from hot body to cold body. Suppose if you want to transfer the heat from cold body to hot body, for example, in case of a heat pump and in case of refrigeration, so where the heat transfer takes place from cold body to hot body, so without work done, it will not happen. So we have to supply certain amount of the work. That is nothing but the supply of the work. Then only it will work. Okay. So the main theme of second law of thermodynamics is the heat always flow from hot body to cold body. Okay. Next, okay, Kelvin Planck statement. Okay, so in the exam they'll ask, okay, define Kelvin Planck statement and Clausius statement. These are the both statement related to second law of thermodynamics. Okay, first statement is Kelvin Planck statement. Okay, according to the statement, it is impossible to for any device as a heat engine that operates on a cycle to receive the heat from a single reservoir and produce net amount of the work done. Okay. So what is exact meaning is that, okay, in order to operate the heat engine, we should have the two reservoirs. One is the source at higher temperature and one is the sink at lower temperature. Then only the cyclic heat engine work. If any one of the uh, reservoir is not there, okay, suppose I have only source, I don't have sink. In that case, the heat engine will not work. Okay, so in order to operate the heat engine, we should have the two temperature reservoir. One is the source at higher temperature and one is the sink at lower temperature. That is a statement of Kelvin Planck statement. It is impossible for any device as a heat engine that operates on a cyclic to receive the heat from a single reservoir. Okay, meaning is that, so we in order to have the operation of a cyclic heat engine, we should have both sink and source at higher temperature and sink at lower temperature. That is the meaning of Kelvin Planck statement. Okay, I'll explain with the diagram. Okay, this one, you see the diagram. Okay, you see the first diagram. Here you see this first diagram only. Okay, so here we are having the only heat source. The heat engine is there, but we don't have sink. Okay, whatever amount of the heat supplied, okay, Q equals to 100 kilojoules, is same amount of the work we produce from the heat engine. We don't have a sink here. Then yesterday I said the efficiency of heat engine is given by QH minus QR divided by QH. Then how much efficiency will get this one? Okay. So QH, there is no QL. So you get the efficiency of the engine as 100% or it is 1. Okay, it is not possible at all. Hence, in order to get the efficiency less than 100% or less than 1, we should have the sink. Okay, then only the heat engine will work. That is the meaning of Kelvin Planck statement. Okay, first you analyze the first diagram. So here we are having the heat engine. It is operating only with the heat source at higher temperature and we don't have sink, and it produces 100 kilojoule work output by taking 100 kilojoule of heat from the heat source. That is thermal reservoir. That is nothing but source. Okay. So it violates Kelvin Planck statement. Hence, in order to operate the heat engine, we should have One is source and one is sink. You see the second diagram. Okay. So here second diagram means the heat engine is there. It is operating between the two thermal reservoir. One is the source at higher temperature and another one is sink at a lower temperature. Okay, 100 kilojoule. Okay, and you see we are having Q2. Q2 has 60 kilojoule. And what is the net work output? As I said, it is QH minus QL. It is 100 minus 60, 40 kilojoule. Then efficiency of engine in second case is given by QH minus QL, net work output divided by heat supplied. That is 100 minus 60 divided by 100. Okay, 40 divided by 100. You get 40% efficiency. So that it will work out. Hence, in order to operate the heat engine, we should have both heat source and a sink. One is at higher temperature and one is at the lower temperature. So no heat engine has 100 percentage of thermal efficiency. So that so I'll tell the Kelvin Planck statement once again. It is impossible for any device as a heat engine that operates on a cycle to receive the heat from a single reservoir, okay, and produce a net amount of power. It is not possible for a heat engine operating with only single source. Either it may be source or it may be sink. Okay. Hence, it violates the Kelvin Planck. Remember, Kelvin Planck statement mainly related with the heat engine, Clausius statement related with the heat pump and refrigeration. Okay, so we are having the two statements. Kelvin Planck mainly related with the heat engine. Okay, so in order to operate the heat engine, we should have the two temperature sources. Okay, and no machine or no heat engine has 100 percentage of the thermal efficiency. Always there will be losses takes place. We are getting the efficiency of any engine is less than 100 percentage. That is a meaning of Kelvin Planck statement. Okay. Now I'll move to second statement, that is Clausius statement. Okay. You see, as I said, Clausius statement mainly related to heat pump. Okay. So Clausius statement states that it is impossible to construct a device as a heat pump that operates in a cycle and produces no effect other than the transfer of heat from lower temperature to higher temperature body. Okay, as I said, the meaning is that the heat cannot flow from cold body to hot body without any work input. Okay, so in case of in the previous class we studied, okay, that is the heat pump and refrigeration. You see, there will be heat work supplied and the heat transfer takes place from the lower temperature reservoir to higher temperature reservoir. Suppose if you are not going to supply the work, in that case the heat pump will not work. And okay, so heat cannot flow from lower temperature reservoir to higher temperature reservoir without the aid of external work supplied to the system. That is the meaning of Clausius statement. Okay, so suppose if work is not going to supply to the heat pump, in that case the heat pump will not work. How we studied Kelvin Planck statement. So without so in order to operate a heat engine, we should have the two thermal reservoir like that. Without the aid of any work input to the heat pump will not work because the heat flows from the lower temperature body to higher temperature body in case of heat pump and refrigeration. Suppose if you supply the work to heat pump or refrigeration, then only the machine or device will work. Okay, that is the meaning of Clausius statement. Okay. So Clausius statement, I'll repeat once again. It is impossible to construct a device as a heat pump that operates in a cycle and produces no effect other than the transfer of heat from lower temperature to higher temperature. Body statement means you have to write like this only. You have to put the technical terms. Okay, and general meaning is that heat cannot flow from cold body to hot body without any work input. And general meaning of Kelvin Planck statement is to operate the heat engine, we should have both temperature reservoir, sink, and source. Okay, then only the heat engine will work. Okay, so if in absence of any one device, the heat engine will not work. Like that, the general meaning of Clausius statement is that heat cannot flow from colder body to hotter body without any work input. So we have to supply the work. to operate the heat pump or refrigeration. This is the Clausius statement. Okay, so concentrate on the statement of Clausius statement and Kelvin-Planck statement. They will ask in the competitive exam. Okay, problems related to Clausius statement and Kelvin-Planck statement. Okay, so I'll illustrate. So one example with one simple problem. Okay, you see the first diagram. Okay, in the first diagram, what is there? We are having the heat pump. We are having the thermal reservoir at higher temperature T1 and thermal reservoir at lower temperature T2. That is called as sink, and one is called as source. And you see, you observe there is no work done at all, no work input at all. Whatever the heat extracting from the sinks directly taking to the heat source. Okay. Then, so what is the COP? COP is nothing but what you'll get the QH divided by QH minus QL. So you'll get 1. Okay, so no work is supplied. So we should have the greater than 1. COP should be greater than 1. So in that case, it will not work. Okay, so without COP will never be 1. It should be greater than 1. So in order to get the greater than 1, okay, you see the second diagram. Second diagram is there. Okay, second diagram. Q1 is 100 kilojoule. Okay, Q2 is 60 kilojoule and 40 kilojoule. How you get the net work input? Means nothing but 100 minus 60. So in work input is nothing but 40 kilojoule. Okay. So second diagram. So it follows the Clausius statement. And first diagram, it violates Clausius statement because no external work is supplied. Okay, so in order to work the heat pump, we should supply the work, and only the heat flows from the lower temperature reservoir to higher temperature reservoir. Okay. In the second case, you see we are having Q1 as same thing. I'm taking Q1 as 100 kilojoules, and W is there. That is the work input to the heat pump is 40 kilojoule. And Q2 is 60 kilojoule. You can calculate net work done is nothing but Q1 minus Q2 is nothing but 40 kilojoules. Then what is the COP of second case? Anybody? What is the value of COP? In the first case, it is 100. Okay. What is the COP in second diagram? Anybody? COP is QH divided by QH minus QL. What is COP of second diagram? Anybody? Anyone? COP. How we are going to calculate COP for second case? All the values are given. Anyone? How? 2.5 correct. How?
2.5. Sir,
correct.
100 by 100 minus 60.
Exactly right.
So it will be
Okay.
100
And how
by
about first
40,
case?
which is 2.5.
How about first diagram?
Yes, sir.
What is COP of?
Sir, first diagram is QH by QH
1,
minus
sir.
QL. So here QL 1, it will
Correct.
be 1.
Good. Okay. So in order to have COP more than 1, we should have the work input. Then only you'll get the COP value greater than 1. Exactly right. What you said, it is 2.5. Okay. The COP for second case is 100. 100 is your QH. As I said, the heat pump is a device where we are going to concentrate on the heat supplied. And refrigeration is a device we are going to concentrate on heat rejected, that is lower temperature you have to consider. So there is a ratio of QH divided by QH minus QL. QH is 100 divided by QH minus QL is 100 minus 60, it is 40. So 2.5. Okay, in order to get the COP more than 1, so we should supply the work, or we have to supply the work to the heat pump. Then only the heat pump will work. Suppose you have no external work is supplied, the heat pump will not work, or refrigerator will not work. So in order to supply the work, so both heat pump and the refrigeration system will work out. Okay. So this is the Clausius statement. You remember Kelvin-Planck statement mainly related with the heat engine. Okay, in order to operate the heat engine, we should have two temperature reservoir. One is source at higher temperature and one is a sink at lower temperature. So in that case, you'll get the efficiency. Suppose you are not having any one source or sink, in that case, the heat engine will not work. Like that, Clausius statement mainly related to the heat pump. Okay, so where in case of heat pump, the heat is extracting from the sink and it's supplied to the source. In order to work the heat pump, so we have to supply the work. You remember the heat engine is power generating device, work done by the system. Work is W is positive, and in case of heat pump and refrigeration, these are power absorbing devices. Okay, that is work done on the system. W is negative. Okay, these are the two statements of second law of thermodynamics. Okay. Next, okay, how we studied a perpetual motion machine of first kind in case of first law of thermodynamics. Like that, we are having perpetual motion machine of second kind in case of second law of thermodynamics. Okay. So you see the diagram. Okay. Here it is PMM2 and thermal reservoir. So in this case, we don't have sink only source is there, no sink at all. So whatever the amount of the heat supplied from the source is same amount of the work output we are getting from the engine. Okay, you can say it as PMM2. Okay, what is the meaning? It is there is no sink at all. In that case, the efficiency is calculated by net work output divided by heat supply. Net work output is Q1 and there is no Q2 at all, divided by heat supplied is Q1. So we'll get 1. So according to our this one concern, so no machine produces 100% efficiency. Hence there is no sink at all. It violates which law? It violates Kelvin Planck statement. Okay, hence such a machine is not possible in nature. So it is imaginary machine. Okay, PMM is not possible because it gives 100% efficiency. There is no sink at all. Such kind of machine is called as the PMM2, that is perpetual motion machine of second kind. So so how we are going to explain is it is the engine which exchanges the heat with only single thermal reservoir, in which whatever the amount of the heat supplied to the engine is completely converted into equivalent amount of the work, and its efficiency is 100%. No machine produces 100% efficiency. So hence this violates second Kelvin Planck statement, and this kind of machine is called as PMM2. Okay. So PMM violates Kelvin Planck statement or second law of thermodynamics. Practically, it is impossible to construct. It is practically not possible at all because the efficiency of PMM2 is 100%, because the net work done is equals to the amount of heat supplied. We will get 100% efficiency. Okay. Next concept is we have to prove both Kelvin Planck statement and Clausius statements are equal in nature, and violation of one statement violates the second law. Okay, means in the example asked, Kelvin Planck statement violates Clausius statement, and Clausius statement violates Kelvin Planck statement. Means both are mutually related. Now, so in order to, they'll ask, okay, equivalence of Kelvin Planck statement and Clausius statement, or they'll give the statement like this. Okay, violation of one statement violates the other statement. That is, violation of Kelvin Planck statement violates Clausius statement, and violation of Clausius statement violates Kelvin Planck statement. Okay, so you have to draw the diagram here. The diagram is most important. You see the diagram, analyze the diagram properly. Okay, so here uh, we are having only one reservoir. Okay, at T1. Reservoir T1, and then you see we are having the heat is supplied, and here this is a pump, we can say it is a pump. Okay, and then it is Q2, the heat is it's supplied to the reservoir. Okay, so as you remember, it's the reservoir at lower temperature. Okay, so whatever the diagram you are saying, it is a sink. Okay, because in case of pump, Clausius violator mainly related to heat pump. The Q1 is the heat is extracted from the sink, and this is the heat pump, and this is the amount of the heat supplied to the reservoir, which is at higher temperature. You remember, it is the source, and whatever is there now, it is the sink. We are having only one sink. Okay, and here there is no work done at all. Okay, you remember, you take the first diagram. Okay, so suppose if there is no work done, there is no work input at all. In that case, as I said, so it violates the Clausius statement, because there is no work input. You concentrate only on the first part. Okay, this is the violation of Clausius statement. We are having the sink at lower temperature, and this is the amount of the heat taken from the sink, and this is the heat pump, and then this is the reservoir or the source at higher temperature. Okay, so anyhow from the diagram it is very clear that it violates Clausius statement. How it violates the Clausius statement? Means there is no work input at all. So without work input, the heat pump will not work, because we are getting the COP as exactly 1. How we are getting COP of it is exactly 1? Means there is no work input. We get the COP of heat pump is exactly 1. It violates Clausius statement. So this is the violation of Clausius statement. Okay. Next, you see, this is mainly related to our heat engine. Okay, heat engine. Okay, so this is the separate diagram. So reservoir, and this is the heat engine. W is the net work output from the heat engine, and Q2 is the amount of the heat taken from the reservoir, and this is the heat engine, and Q3. Okay, and here now what I am going to do, the same amount of the heat, okay, I'm going to connect both these two. Okay, so whenever Q2 is supplied to the reservoir, then it becomes one common reservoir. Okay, you remember, because here also Q2 and here also Q2. The same amount of the heat I'm taking from this reservoir to the heat engine. Okay. Yeah. So here this is the violation of Clausius statement. Now what I'm going to do, actually you assume that it is the one reservoir is there. Okay. So that I'm eliminating that reservoir. Okay. Because whatever the Q2 is there now, the same amount of the heat we are going to take the heat engine. So according to the Kelvin Planck statement. Okay, so we should have minimum two reservoirs. One is a source at higher temperature, and one is the sink at lower temperature. Okay. Once again, it violates Kelvin Planck statement. How it violates the Kelvin Planck statement? Because so this is the heat engine. It is working only with one thermal reservoir, which is at lower temperature. We don't have the other thermal reservoir at all. You see the diagram. There is no source at all. So in order to operate the heat engine, we should have the two thermal reservoir. Okay, so already it violates the Clausius statement. Means we are going to prove how the Clausius statement is related to the Kelvin Planck statement. Okay, already we proved there is it violates the Clausius statement because there is no work input at all. Okay, once again, we are in the second diagram, we are going to eliminate the reservoir because whatever amount of the heat Q2 from this heat pump is directly fed into the heat engine. You see this diagram, whatever the amount of the heat from pump is directly taken into the heat engine. According to the statement, whenever the heat engine is there, we should have the minimum two reservoir. Okay, one is the thermal reservoir at higher temperature, and another one is uh, sink at lower temperature. Okay, and then same amount of the heat is supplied and it produces the work done. And Q3, whatever amount of the heat is rejected to the sink, no problem. But here it violates the Kelvin Planck statement. Hence, the violation of Clausius statement violates the Kelvin Planck statement. Okay. So, understood, guys? Any doubt in this one? It's the most important concept. So, guys have seen the slide. There are some internet problem. Have seen? Have understood? There was some
Yes, sir.
internet connection. I think the problems was there. Okay. Have you observed that screen, whatever I shared, violation of? Huh? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Next. I'm going to explain the Carnot cycle. Okay. So, Carnot cycle. Anyhow, you are going to study the various cycles like Carnot cycle, um, Otto cycle, diesel cycle, dual cycle in applied thermodynamics. Okay, we are going to study only the Carnot cycle in second law of thermodynamics. Okay, Carnot cycle is a theoretical cycle. Okay, and it is not practical cycle. I'll tell how practically it is not possible at all. And so first, you should analyze the PV diagram. Okay, this is the most important diagrams. Whenever they ask, explain the Carnot cycle, you have to explain with PV diagram. Okay, this is the PV diagram. The cyclic process, as I said, cyclic process is one which undergoes the sequence of process, and finally it come back to the original position. That is the initial state and final state are identical in case of cyclic process. Here you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 is a cyclic process. On the other hand, 1 to 2 is process, 2 to 3 is another process, 3 to 4 is another process, and 4 to 1 is another process. Okay. So, Carnot cycle consisting of 4 processes. Okay. So, 2 isothermal process and 2 adiabatic process. Okay, isothermal process is one.
Sir, both are reversible, no? Over here.
All are
Sir,
reversible.
both will be reversible.
All reversible only. Reversible in nature. You remember, whatever the process in a cyclic process are reversible in nature. You remember, okay? Whatever cyclic process you take, all are reversible only. So irreversible process, I'll explain. Okay, irreversible is not possible at all. Okay, we are going to deal because every state in the process are in equilibrium condition. Okay, in the cyclic process. Okay, and it is a slow process, not fast process. Whereas the irreversible process is a fast process. Okay? So all the processes are reversible in nature. Okay, so you see the diagram. This Carnot cycle consisting of 4 processes, 2 isothermal and 2 adiabatic. Okay, so isothermal process.
Temperature is constant.
Temperature is constant.
Temperature
right?
constant.
Okay, temperature is constant. Right? And you see the arrow mark. It is in forward direction. What is the meaning of forward direction? Can you tell? Process 1 to 2 arrow mark is in forward direction. What is the meaning of forward? You see, process 3 to 4 is in backward direction. You see that arrow mark also most important. So it is in forward direction and it is in backward direction. What is the meaning of these two arrow mark? Anybody?
So it is expansion. So isothermal expansion is happening.
Correct. What about this reverse arrow mark?
So isothermal compression.
Good. Okay. Then what is the difference between expansion and compression process? Because you have to analyze each and everything in that process. Okay. Already studied process in first chapter. So we are going to deal with in depth. Okay. So what is the expansion and what is the compression? You see, in case of expansion process, the pressure pressure decreases. Okay. And in case of compression process, the pressure increases. You remember. So hence, compressor is a device where the pressure increases. We are going to supply high pressurized air. Okay. In case of compressor. Okay. That's why it is the compression process. Expansion process, the pressure and temperature decreases. increases. And in case of compression process, both pressure and temperature increases. Okay, whenever you are having the expansion and compression process, please keep in mind, in case of expansion, always pressure drops, temperature decreases. And in case of compression, pressure and temperature increases and volume decreases. Okay, and in case of expansion process, the pressure and temperature decreases, volume increases. Okay, these are things you keep in mind. Okay, so this Carnot cycle, it consisting of the four process. One is process 1 to 2, that is isothermal expansion process, in which the heat addition takes place. Okay, so in case of Carnot cycle, always the heat addition, you see the arrow marks the Q in, the heat addition takes place at constant temperature. Okay, during which the heat is supplied reversibly and isothermally until it reaches state 2, where the temperature of the system remains constant, that is T1 equals to T2. Okay, this is the isothermal expansion, where the heat transfer takes place at constant temperature. You remember that. So it is constant temperature process, but the heat is supplied in this process only. Okay, remember, the heat is supplied during isothermal compression process. There is no change in temperature, but the heat is supplied during that particular process. This is the first one. Second one, the process 2 to 3. It is called as adiabatic expansion process. During the adiabatic expansion process, both pressure and temperature decreases, volume increases, and there is no heat transfer at all. You remember, already we studied adiabatic process is one in which there is no heat transfer between system and surroundings. Process 2 to 3 is adiabatic expansion process, where the pressure and temperature decreases and volume increases, and there is no heat transfer at all. That is Q is 0. Okay, that is the process 2 to 3. Now coming to the process 3 to 4, okay, it is called as isothermal compression process, where the pressure and temperature increases, the volume decreases. You see, the volume decreases from V3 to V4. The pressure and increases, but anyhow it is isothermal process. There is no change in temperature. Okay, whenever for other during the other process, temperature and pressure decreases, but in case of isothermal compression process, only the pressure increases and temperature remains same in case of isothermal compression process. Okay, and during this process, the heat rejection takes place to the sink. As I said, for any heat engine, we should have one is source and one is a sink. Okay, so here the heat addition takes place at constant temperature, and the heat rejection takes place once again at the constant temperature process, that is isothermal compression process. Okay. And then finally, in order to complete cycle, we are having the last process called as adiabatic compression process. Adiabatic compression process means both pressure and temperature increases, volume decreases. Okay, and adiabatic nature is that there is no heat flow, means there is no heat transfer at all between the system and surroundings. Okay, so this is the Carnot cycle. Any doubts in this cycle? Okay, like that we are going to have the number of cycles in applied thermodynamics. This is the basic cycle, Carnot cycle. And Carnot cycle is practically not possible at all. Anybody? Do you have any idea? It is only theoretical cycle. Okay, and we are going to use this Carnot cycle as a reference for other cycle. And Carnot cycle is one which gives 100% cycle efficiency. Anybody? How it is not possible? Anyone having any idea? Carnot cycle.
No, sir.
Good. Okay. I'll explain. Carnot cycle is not practically possible. Okay. So Y means, you see, so we are having the two process. One is isothermal expansion and one is isothermal compression. Okay, and whenever you take the heat engine, suppose if you start the engine at a particular speed, okay, the same speed will be continue for entire operation. Means all the four operation, we are not going to change the speed of the engine. Suppose if it is the engine is running at 1500 rpm, then until all the four operation, it should run at 1500 rpm only. We cannot change the speed in between. Okay, so in order to achieve the isothermal expansion or isothermal compression, the engine has to work in the slow speed. Okay, you remember. So in order to attain the constant temperature process, so we are having two processes, right? 1 to 2 and 3 to 4. The engine should run at very slow speed to attain the constant temperature condition. Okay. On the other hand, we are having the two adiabatic process. One is 2 to 3 and 4 to 1. So in order to get the efficiency, the engine should run very fast. Okay, so process 1 to 2 and 3 to 4 should run at a very slow process. On the other hand, the process 2 to 3 and 4 to 1 should run at very fast. Why fast? Means there should not be any heat exchange, means heat losses should not be there. Hence the engine should run in a faster rate. Okay, then only this adiabatic condition can be achieved. Suppose if the engine is running at very slow speed condition, in that case there will be a possibility of the heat transfer between the system and surroundings. So in order to achieve the adiabatic expansion and adiabatic compression, the engine should run at the high speed. Okay, you see, for 1 to 2 and 3 to 4, the engine should run at slow speed, and for 2 to 3 and 4 to 1, the engine should run at a very high speed. In a cyclic process, it is not possible. In a heat engine, it is not possible to change the speed in between. Hence, it is not possible at all. Hence, we are calling it as a theoretical cycle or ideal cycle, and it is the one which gives the maximum efficiency and which is used as a reference for other cycle. Okay, so they'll ask in the exam why Carnot cycle is practically not possible. So you have to explain like this. The process 1 to 2 and 3 to 4, that is the isothermal expansion and compression process, should where the engine should run at slow speed. On the other hand, in order to achieve the adiabatic condition 2 to 3 and 4 to 1, the engine should run at very high speed condition. So for a heat engine, it is not possible to switch over the speed in between the process. So once we start the engine, so we should stop only after performing all the four processes. Then only we can stop the engine. Okay, hence it is not, it is very difficult to switch over the speed in between the process. First we have to run the engine at slow speed, and then we have to change the speed to higher speed, and then once again we have to reduce the speed at lower condition, and then speed to the higher condition. It is not possible at all in case of Carnot cycle. Hence the Carnot cycle is not possible at all. It is impossible in nature, and we are calling it as the practical. This one is ideal cycle. Okay, hope you understood this concept, a Carnot cycle, why it is not practically possible.
Yes.
Good. Okay, so definitely they'll ask, okay, this Clausius statement, Kelvin-Planck statement, and then PMM2, that is perpetual motion machine of a second kind, and then Carnot cycle. You have to explain all the four process with the PV diagram. Then why Carnot cycle is not practically possible. Okay. So hope you understood, and tomorrow class I'll derive the derivation for Carnot cycle and numerical problems, simple numerical problems on Carnot cycle. Okay, hope you understood all the concept you go through once again, study properly. Still you are having any doubts, you can ask me. Okay. So those who have not entered your revision, please enter your revision in the chat box without fail for attendance purpose. Okay. So thank you one and all for joining the session. Okay, I'll stop the session now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And